have found us again. This is the Dreamers Live podcast coming to you live from the center of the known universe in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, and the lair, the Pioneer Dream Studio.
In the heat of summer.
The daggone heat of summer.
It's been like a 101,
Yeah.
which with the humidity is like 1,000.
And that whole, I know lots of people have the same feeling, but don't tell me heat index.
I don't need it. I don't need that
Well,
kind of help.
just settle on one or the other. If the temperature is 101, the temperature is 101. If it feels like 115, that's what it is. It's 115.
Yeah.
So don't tell me it's only 101, but it feels like heat index of 115.
Yes.
If what I feel when I go outside is 115,
that's right.
That's what it is.
And also, do not show me the extended 10-day forecast. I don't need that.
Unless there's an incredible dip at the end. That says, we're back in the 70s on Thursday.
It'll be 64 on next Tuesday.
That's when you can show me. If it is a never-ending marathon of 101s, then just keep that information to yourself. It's
and I apologize for, being negative right off the bat. Just a little venting, and I feel better.
Yeah.
I like
so we are so thrilled you're here, and I'm thrilled you're here. This was one of those days where making time and working this out was not easy. But we made it.
It wasn't, but here we are.
Looks like we made it.
We made it. It's a delightful conversation, I'm sure.
Oh, it is. It is. It's delightful. Let's start with things that make you feel old. And
is that what we're talking about today?
And no, in a kind of roundabout way. I was a couple of months ago. I've reached that age, like in car years. It would be like the 60,000 mile marker. That's where you have all your belts changed, and they go through the tires and they go through all the stuff.
Yes, the check engine light comes on.
That's when you have to decide: are we keeping the car? Are we moving on from the car? Are we doing a long-term car?
Well, I hope we're keeping the car.
So my body hit that spot, and I had a number of health issues. And they're when you get to be our age, a health issue is like could be seasonal allergies, could be brain cancer. So and it's all whatever the WebMD tells you. And so when
they're
you
like,
book
do you feel weak? Are you listless?
I do feel weak. And
yes. And are you hot all the time? Yes. Oh no, I'm dying of cancer.
Yeah. So we were in that spot, and then unfortunately we had reached the place in our lives where people, even from our graduating class, we were starting to lose people, and so
You're making us sound really old.
I know, and I'm just rounding our age. We're basically 30. So,
but you do hear of more situations where...
and so we had lost two of our friends in the span of about a month. And so that was really difficult, and I was taking all that in. Here I was struggling with a health issue that could be a major health issue or it could be nothing. We had lost two friends. We had a dear friend of ours who had gone to visit probably once a week for about 12 years or 13 years or so.
Yeah.
And she died at 102, 103.
Yes.
And
Georgia Pearl.
Georgia Pearl Cole.
Yeah.
And anyway, it was all kind of hitting me at one time, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was thinking about that, and it put my own state into perspective, and I was just thinking, I don't think or know that I am ready to die, and then what would happen if I died, and then maybe more importantly, like what does it take to die happy? I mean, how does a person get to a place where they feel like, okay, I've done what I've done, or I've lived what I've lived, and all that kind of stuff. And then
is it the 115 degree heat
that's
index?
That's the thing that started melting. Yeah. And so
it's so hot. Let's talk about death.
Let's talk about morbidity. And so I was talking to my friend about this thing, and then I was thinking, what does it take to die happy? And then I was thinking, well, here's the thing. I have all these bucket list things. So I have all these places that I want to go. All the places that Rick Steves goes.
I want to go where Rick Steves goes on PBS.
With Rick Steves for a year.
He's always in Europe.
I know, and they go to the Mayflower dances or May dances or Maypole dances or whatever.
We watched a travel show the other day, and they were in Spain, and I was like, I'm not even going to watch this right now. I don't appreciate it at all.
It's too much. Yeah. So I have all these places that I want to go visit, and I had not reached the level of acclaim and success, surprisingly, that is enough for me.
All we need is a job that pays for us to go to Europe sometimes.
Makes us independently wealthy from
That's
here on
it,
out.
but we're not there.
And so all these things, and the house wasn't in the state that I wanted it to be, and all this, and then I realized that most of the things on that list that were getting in the way of me dying were all comparative shopping items.
Okay.
So like things where you look at your life compared to somebody else. I have not traveled to as many places as this person has, or I don't have the level of success that. And well, how did you set that bar for success? Well, it's because I see other people and supposedly they're at this level of success, or even their houses, and so as a culture, it feels like we've gone into this comparative shopping thing at such a distinct and amazing level, and it's easy to blame social media for that, and God knows they're guilty. But I think even before that, like we would talk about, you would go to the grocery store and you do all the grocery shopping, you get all the stuff, you get all the coupons, you get ready to check out,
right?
And then there's just this tree of magazines in front of you.
Yeah.
And all the magazines are saying that someone else is having better sex than you are,
What?
living in a better house, their house is clean.
Oh my gosh.
They've simplified their house so that their utility drawer is organized and clean and serene.
Right.
Their kids all look like Gap ads and
of course
all
they
that
do.
kind of stuff.
And they have master's degrees, of
yeah,
course.
And so everybody's time is managed better than yours. They're skinnier than you are.
They're always skinnier.
Yeah, they're having a
annoying.
better marriage than you're having, and so there was all that stuff, and so it got to a place where you go to check out and you just have to avert your eyes a little bit, or walk
I'm
through
not gonna
cover.
look at this.
I'm not looking at these ads because it just makes me feel bad about myself.
And now with social media, it's just there all the time on your
my
phone, so the
gosh.
images are constantly.
Yeah, and then you find yourself secretly, and sometimes not so secretly, lashing out at people, not to them, but at your own house, at your own place, because you get mad. Why are they in Vegas? Why are they on a beach with blue clear water? Why are they doing,
Why do their toilets work better than the 3 in our house that aren't working right?
why are their Christmas cookies all come out looking amazing like they work at a bakery?
Right, exactly. I think in old-fashioned terms, they call that envy.
Yes, I believe you are correct. One of the 7 deadly sins.
Oh, is it? Is it?
It is.
I didn't know those. Is that a thing from growing up Catholic?
Why do you have to say it like that?
I didn't. I just didn't know there were 7 deadly sins. Like, I feel like the Baptists had more than 7, is what I'm thinking.
Leave it to Catholics to kind of, put a list on things and prioritize it.
Well, sometimes
the
the list is helpful.
There's sin, and then there's real sin.
The deadly sins.
7 deadly sins.
So that's where that comes.
I don't think Catholics, I don't know if they brought that up, but I have to look that up.
Okay, we'll have to check. Well,
but yes, envy is
our
one of the 7
apologies.
deadly sins.
Yeah. Well, I think it's natural sometimes, but I think it is potentially deadly to yourself. It's like a disease that gets on you, a disease of the soul,
Well, and it gets toxic. Like we joke about. You all get on social media and some concert has come through town and all that kind of stuff, and all your friends are at the concert, and you're like, they didn't even call.
Yes.
No one even said, "Hey, do you want?" I like that band. I'd go see that band. And
Yeah.
and everybody else, and they're there, and of course the picture shows them.
And they're having
the
such
absolute
a
best time.
best time ever.
Just
Backstage
like
passes.
Yeah, you're like, oh my gosh.
That's one of the reasons why we don't let our daughter have a phone yet, and may never let her have social media at all.
I might give mine up.
Yeah. It's too easy to become envious and to see things you're not included in.
And resentful.
To see things that you wish you had. Or for me, a lot of times, I think I struggle in the area like, do you ever meet those people and they just seem a bit carefree?
Yes.
Like they're not laden with as much responsibility as I feel that we have sometimes.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh yeah, you're out at the pool. How's it going? Oh, that's great. Oh, another vacation? Good. Sure. No problem.
Yeah.
Taking your kids to the movies? That sounds nice. So that's where I struggle.
Yeah, I don't know if is that a personality type, or is that a coping mechanism? Is that just how we perceive them? Well, I mean, are those people really that carefree, or do we just perceive them to be that carefree?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. I don't really think that they are. I don't think being human is carefree. No. I mean, you may look it on the outside and you may be able to, your actions may look carefree, but everybody has struggles they're carrying around for sure.
Yeah.
Even if they are in the French Riviera again.
Well, and I think that that's so we see those people kind of behaving that way, and we have this whole experience now where everybody is constantly, I guess, putting their best foot forward. So
Yeah.
we rarely, post ourselves, with the bad hair day, or the acne
Yeah.
that's gone wrong, or the water bill that's double late, or whatever, or the flat tire, or whatever. We're generally posting. Some of it's because we want to celebrate. Like if something happens with our daughter.
Yeah, she got an award at school or whatever.
But even that, you and I are pretty guarded on, because there are a lot who don't have kids, don't want kids, or whose kids are not doing well. So we have this whole thing where we put this best foot forward in a lot of cases, and so. Especially when good things happen, those are the things we tend to post, unless you just have that Debbie Downer personality where you always have to post the want-wants.
There are some people like that. Went to the store, they were out of sour cream, and I'm like, that is not a post.
Right. Yeah. Another migraine.
Wah, wah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's right.
But then this other conversation developed yesterday, and I was actually talking to my mom, and we were FaceTiming, and somewhere in this conversation, we were talking about this idea of making yourself vulnerable in front of other people, or trying to be, at the very least, honest about your circumstances or situations or failures, and the response or the way that connects with the people. So.
Sure.
You fail at something, you screw up at something, you're not perfect at something, and instead of trying to clean yourself up, and put the best foot forward, you just say, no, this is what it is.
Yeah.
I did X, Y, or Z, or I'm really bad at X, Y, and Z, and you've done that. You've on occasion you've chosen to post some things on the socials.
I do that. Yeah.
That are just very honest.
Yeah. I think any time that we're willing to be self-deprecating around other people, it can be good unless you take it too far. I kind of actually learned self-deprecating humor as my first line of defense, because I have a fun sort of extroverted personality, and then I have fabulous blonde hair. I'm kidding. That doesn't really have anything to do with it, but I am perky, is what people would say. And so I learned early on that most people would like to be around me, but there was a percentage of people pretty quickly that would feel intimidated by that, which is, a mystery to me because I know myself. But, the idea that you're up all the time and that. So I would very quickly say something that I wasn't great at, like, oh, well, I just spilled a Coke in my car on the way over, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it basically says, I know you think that I have it together, but I don't. I just spilled a soda in my car. Yeah. And immediately, however we do that, a lot of times that brings what we call people's deflector shields down.
Yeah.
And we all have those.
Yes.
Who's it that we were reading? I can't remember the author, but it said the first time you...
Oh, Anne Lamott.
Yeah, Anne Lamott, who we love. She said... The first time she's so open about her insecurities and the struggles that go on inside her mind and heart. She said, the first time I ever meet anyone, they're not meeting me, they're meeting my bodyguard.
Right. Yes.
Which was so great.
Right.
But the idea that we have this sort of false sense of self that we've crafted on the outside, and all of us have that.
This is who I would like you to see.
This is who I would like you to see me as. Right. And so if you are willing to go ahead and take the first, strike at that or throw the first stone at that with people, I think immediately people feel more comfortable being more honest with you.
Yes.
So you often have to be the one to take the first step.
I feel like it accomplishes two things. I think one, when we're putting up a front, I think people can generally smell that out, and then it also invites them to try and take that front down.
You're so right.
So you become the target when you are so good and so perfect and whatever. Either you're just causing other people to envy you at whatever level. They're not loving you. They're loving this facade.
This persona.
And then it can invite people to want to take you down.
Oh, sure. It does. I mean, we've all known that person who
Yeah.
came over as perfect, acted like that, and maybe even seemed to believe it. And you don't want to, but you're secretly waiting for them to
Yes.
have a misstep.
You want to see them trip
To be
up
like,
the stairs.
oh, who's perfect now? You know?
Yeah.
Those are just human emotions. We're not mean. It's only mean if you act on it. But, you're thinking, yeah, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Perfect messed up and did this or that. And
Yeah,
so
right.
we all have those facades, though, I think that we do. I think I put mine forward sometimes without even knowing that I'm doing it. And so
Well-
then I will be self-deprecating also for myself to be a quick reminder, no, you actually really suck at these things.
Right.
And so,
It's funny because I did the facade out of insecurity early on. So I would really be
like how
guarded.
old, like
I would be-
teenage to early
yeah,
adulthood.
well, most of my life. But, you just
I appreciate the honesty.
really be guarded.
It was yesterday.
Yeah. You're just really guarded about, I took on the role of class clown early because I was such
Yeah.
a poor student. I had bad hygiene. I was not well behaved.
Stop, you
no,
were
I was all those
cute.
things, and so
You had dyslexia. That's why
I had
you were a
plenty
poor
of,
student.
The list was long,
Okay.
and but I could on occasion be funny.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, that's something, and people will respond to that.
Sure.
When I crack the joke, people laugh.
Yeah.
And that's affirming, and I could do that. And then I also got addicted to the laugh, and that was a whole other part of it.
Right.
But I also created that. I would also lean towards putting my best foot forward as much as possible, because it made me feel better, and I was guarded. And then I always thought, well, I can always walk that back. I want to present myself as
Yeah.
being someone. And then when they love and adore me, I can walk it back and add humility in later.
Be like, I'm actually not that great at
Yeah.
this, but
Yeah.
that's funny.
I didn't get 100 on the test. I got a 98.
Right.
So that's all that is. But it was that way. And so I remember, like, by the time I got to high school, I was swimming. I started putting on a little bit of muscle. And then I thought, oh, instead of being quite such the awkward duckling,
Yeah.
I didn't feel quite that bad. So then I would want to try and add that element of what you wear and how you do it and how you present yourself.
So you just started wearing like constant tank tops, or
Yeah, right. No, you just you find fashion, and part of that
Yeah.
was just a legitimate enjoyment.
Yes.
Part of it was I wanted to be seen in this light.
you want to be seen as cool. Yeah. Some of
Yeah.
it's fashion is like
Some of
that.
you
It's
just do
creative
it because
expression.
Yeah, and that's where it is now for me. But at that moment, it was defensive. At that moment, it was I need people to not know what a mess up I really am.
Yeah. So I'm going to put this armor on.
Right. And so I did that, and it did make it difficult to put other people at ease. It was so important for me to keep building this up and keep propping this thing
This
up.
image.
That it made it difficult for me to focus on other people and make sure
Yeah.
they were comfortable, make sure that they were okay, make sure that they had their needs met.
Yes, and I understand that, and you also appear as you're not quiet, but you are a thinker,
Right.
and so you can appear as
Most intelligent genius. Of
I mean, that's a given.
Please,
I mean, anybody
please.
listening to this knows that.
Genius
but
is such a heavy load to
it
carry.
is. It
Yes.
is. But I think, sometimes in your quietude or in your thinking, you can come over as maybe this is
Yes,
an interesting
dis-
disinterested,
Wow.
or like you're trying to be cool. When the truth is, I know that's just because you're processing
that
a
I'm not
situation.
cool,
Well, we know that neither of us
Yes,
are cool.
right.
We figured that out. But yeah, self-deprecation for me was a way that, in case I seemed like I had a facade, I could break it down really quickly for myself and someone else. And I use that all the
Yeah.
time as an adult,
Yeah.
because mostly people are all walking around like insecure kids. I mean,
Oh man.
all of us are. We just really don't get, we can evolve and get better maybe in how we react from certain things. But the truth is, a lot of us just carry around a lot of this. It's hard to be human, and we carry around a lot of those insecurities, especially when we're first, being introduced to new
Yes.
people. And so anything I can do to, if I'm having a good day, to try to get the focus off of myself and try to show interest to the other person.
Yeah. And so to
But
that,
sometimes I forget, and I'm totally focused on myself, and
but
I
to
just
that
want to nap.
end, I think this whole thing about being vulnerable in front of other people,
Oh,
or
yeah.
honest in front of other people.
Is that hard for you?
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, based on insecurity and that kind of stuff, what I have found, though, lately is that being vulnerable and being honest, especially with those people that I'm close to, increases the depth and enjoyment of those relationships like tenfold.
The level of
so
connection.
if I'm hanging out, I have a band of friends, the guy friends that we hang out, and
your man friends.
yes, and so it's easy in that thing to get jocular and the whole thing and getting into pissing contests and all that kind of stuff.
Nice use of jocular.
Thank you. And but I have found that especially in smaller settings, the more honest and upfront I can be, then the closer the connection is between us as friends.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it makes it okay for them to do the same thing. And so you can die of stoicism. You can die from from the fear that comes from not wanting to be vulnerable. So not admitting that you're suffering either emotionally or physically with something, all those kinds of things, because you didn't know it was okay to let your guard down and say, I'm having this challenge, I'm having this issue. And I think as I've gotten older, I've realized that, and I've also realized how important it is for me to let other people know it's okay for you to be honest
with me.
Yeah, and I know so many people who are still working so hard to keep up that front, to keep up that thing.
And it's I think the biggest gift that we can give other people is the gift of being authentic with them,
right?
And being genuine. And it's impressive to me how quickly we meet a lot of people in our work that we may only be around a few days if we're on a film or video shoot. I can very quickly, on a good day, get through 3 or 4 steps of what it would take to get to know someone on a little bit deeper level.
Yes.
If all we're talking about are what this or that or the work or that type of thing, but if I'm able to take a step past that and reveal a little bit about myself, and even say, I find myself sometimes saying, not right away, but if you're working with someone for a few days, I'm just at a tough, kind of a weird place in life. It's tough. We've got a young kid, we've got this, and there's some struggle there.
Yeah.
And people look like, I can't believe you just said something that was so genuine, like what a friend would say, but it's exactly the gift you're giving to them is what you said. Now I've given them permission, if they want, to be open and authentic with me.
Right.
And you can be friends with someone pretty quickly based on that level of shared information and honesty.
Yeah. And there's generally so much relief on their end.
Yes.
Part.
Yeah. At first they look at you like, oh.
Well, I mean, if you think about the people that you are closest to, or at the very least the people that you really enjoy being around, most of those people are people who don't take themselves too seriously.
Right.
Most of those people are people that have a certain amount of vulnerability in front of you, and are self-deprecating, or who don't mind making a fool of themselves at times, or whatever, and for all the right reasons. And so, those are the people that we enjoy being with. Are the people who we feel comfortable letting our hair down, around. Though this is as long as my hair will get down, but
those people that truly know who we are and are going to love us anyway.
So we have that opportunity to be honest, be open, reveal ourselves to other people, which will let other people know, oh, I'm not the only one who struggles with X, Y, or Z, or this person's not perfect, which then takes the shame off of me for not being perfect, and then also invites me to be open and honest too. And there's so much health in all that.
What do you think, if you were going to try, or I were going to try to get better at being willing to be vulnerable, what do you think that takes? Like, what can we do to be better at this?
It's hard because, obviously a lot of this is in response to insecurities and issues that we face. And so those things are difficult to get past. I will say that intimacy really helps abolish that insecurity. So when we take that risk and we are open and that way to other people, and that relationship goes to a different depth, that really helps erase a lot of insecurity. The more we know each other, the more we're loved by each other, the more we do that. So that's one thing. I think granting people the freedom to be honest without judgment, granting people the freedom to relate who they really are. That's important. I'm not suggesting that we spend all of our time just airing our dirty laundry and all that kind of stuff.
That's annoying.
It is, and so some people will take all that stuff a little too far. So I'm not.
Sure.
It's not about that. It is about. It is about being open and being ourselves, as you said, authentic. And then it's also about the other person. So if what we're doing is now burdening the other person too much,
then you need to shut it up.
Yeah, then you need to let some of that go.
Yeah, for sure. But I find myself sometimes, even with you, it's so funny because we work together and we're together a lot, which is amazing.
Right.
But sometimes I think we'll even struggle being vulnerable with one another, or even with our daughter on certain days. Like yesterday, I was just feeling bad physically. Like you said, we're kind of that age where you might have the flu, or you might be dying, or whatever. And then work was busy, and it's 115 degrees outside again, and all those different things. And I just made my way through the day the best I could, and I did okay. And then finally, I think I snapped at you or Evangeline or both or something.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Oh, stop. And I was like, guys, okay, here's the deal. I'm really sorry. I said, I'm hot.
Yes.
I don't feel good. I have too much to do. And I know it's all going to be okay, but I'm really sorry that I have been grumpy today.
Sure. Right.
And what did you guys do? You suck. Yeah, you are grumpy.
Please.
No. I mean, our 12-year-old might have done that. But you go, Evangeline goes, it's okay, Mom.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I felt that way too earlier. I was tired too. That's the gift that we can give to each other.
Our marriage is far from perfect, because most marriages are. But one of the benefits that you and I have in our relationship is that we have, I think, because we have known each other for so long, and because we knew each other as kids, in high school and all that kind of stuff, and we've kind of grown up together, and we've seen a lot of life, I think, in traveling and just being around this long. So because of that, I think since we've seen a lot of life, we have chosen to give each other trust or freedom. So you and I can talk about a lot of stuff.
Right.
And, so we've talked about awkward things, we've talked about painful things, we've talked about embarrassing things, we've talked about fears, we've talked about at some level, again, without burdening or hurting the other person,
right,
having that level of freedom to say, I'm struggling with this, even if it's an embarrassing thing.
Sure.
Or I wish this, or I'm having a difficult time when you do this because of these things. And I'm not saying those things to hurt you, and you're not saying those things to hurt me. You're saying those things to be honest and upfront,
right,
so that hopefully we can find some, if not a solution, at least some understanding.
Yeah.
And that's important. It's not always about getting to a solution. Sometimes it's about getting to an understanding, getting to an awareness, and that in itself is healing.
Yeah.
But I'm so grateful that early on we kind of agreed to trust each other in that way, and so that's, I think, man, if there's something you could give somebody in a relationship, whether it's a friendship or a family relationship or a marriage or a significant other relationship, it would be, as much as you can, give the other person the freedom.
Yeah, that's so
to
true.
express what they're going through and what they're going. And if that doesn't exist, if that's too painful, then find someone that they can talk to. Find a counselor. Find somebody that will allow them, because you have to be able to talk about some of this stuff. You have to be able to get those things out.
The friendships that I find are most meaningful in my life are the ones where I know someone loves me and knows my better self.
Right.
They believe in me. And so when I'm not showing that, they're not going to immediately correct me. They may let me in vulnerability, just this funny. It's 115, so we work out at a gym, and there's a lot of hot girls, and it's annoying. Yeah. And I actually love all of them.
It's only a deal if you like the obvious beauty. I mean, if that's your,
The six-pack abs and
You
the
know,
big
like,
boobs
oh,
and all that.
this is too obvious.
Yeah.
Give me something to work for
Right.
here. Yeah.
There's a lot of regular people that also work out
Right.
there, and I fall into that category of the
We all
regular
do.
people. So me and some of the regular ladies work out in the back together, and we're all friends. But when it starts to be 115, shirts come flying off at the gym.
Yes.
So, you got guys and they're muscled up, and then there's girls in the tank tops and the whole thing with their six-pack of abs and, and they're probably like eating pizza while they work out, and it doesn't affect them at all. Talk about envy. Just want to punch people. But anyway, so the other day, when my friends and I, we just kind of went off on that with each other. It was like, you know what I mean? And everybody just keep their shirt on and da-da-da-da. And the truth is, we would never act on that. We would never say that. And then we loved the other girls, even though they happen to look perfect like that.
Yeah.
But I didn't say, now listen, you need to be getting it together right now.
Right.
You know that that's not
You weren't
important how
correcting
they
people.
look.
Yeah.
No, we just trashed them for a couple of minutes. It was funny. We didn't mean any of
Vented,
it.
yeah.
Now, if I had come back the next day, I know that same friend would have been like, "We're good now. Okay,
Yeah,
you need to
or
get back."
if you had started saying mean or catty things to
Yeah,
other people,
about those
or-
actual people. No,
and to them, or trying to hurt them, or be
acted on
malicious, or-
any of that.
Right.
It's just that that person is gonna let me be
Right.
for a minute, and then know that I'm not gonna act on that,
Yes.
and I'm gonna have a better attitude later.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
anyway, but that, that vulnerability, we were talking earlier about some things that we could do to maybe be better about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't really thought about it, but I think the biggest thing is being willing, and I'm not exactly sure how someone would do this, but being willing to not be seen in a perfect light.
And, yeah, it's very difficult.
It's being willing to not look good in front of people all the
Yeah.
time. I mean, how do we get to the point where we're okay with that? I mean, I know for me, the people that I know love me unconditionally, I can let them see my failures more because I know that they know my better self,
Right.
right? But that's tough. But I think it is. I think it's a willingness to love other people, or try to love other people enough to let ourselves really be seen for our struggles and all.
Yeah, and it seems so ridiculous, but it does take a certain level of bravery, to not look perfect in a picture, and not look perfect in a scenario, and to be vulnerable that way. And yet it's also so important. And the reality is, we just can't keep up the rest of the work.
Yeah.
I just can't be perfect.
It's so
I
much,
can't. It's
yeah.
never going to happen.
Yeah.
And I can't keep up a facade, because sooner or later,
Oh, yeah.
there's going to be a crack in that facade, or this facade is only one-sided, and someone's going to come around the back and see that it's all bull. And
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
I remember my mom said to me one time, and she'd be okay with me telling this story because she's evolved much, but she's awesome. But she came from what I would call the Elizabeth Taylor generation.
Mm-hmm.
She technically was a baby boomer, but she really identified with the fabulous movie
Sure,
stars of
right.
the 40s and 50s and that kind of a thing. And so my mom always looks like $1,000,000. I mean, she's got, her hair and makeup is did, and,
Right.
you know,
She would
fabulous.
not think of leaving the house.
Oh, no.
Undid.
And you know what's so funny is your mom is the same way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure,
they
sure.
both, our moms are always, they look amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, they're never just going to go to the store in their shorts or
Right.
whatever. And so that's funny to me because I remember my mom said to me, this was like 20 years ago, and it was really a very genuine conversation we were having.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't being critical. I saw her, she came over to the house or something, and she's like, what are you up to? I said, oh, I just got back from the grocery store. And she goes, oh. And I mean, I was just in like, I don't know, some workout shorts, no makeup, and a t-shirt. Probably looked pretty homeless. And she goes, that's interesting. You went to the store like that? And I said, I did. And she goes, help me understand. She's like,
Right.
legitimately,
Yeah.
help me understand how that's okay for you. And I said, I said, well, I guess sometimes I look really nice, and sometimes I look like this, and I guess that's okay.
Yeah.
And she was like, But that's kind of the idea, is that sometimes we're going to be looking decent as a human. This isn't about physical appearance, but you know,
No, but it's-
sometimes, and I guess and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It is funny, not for that reason, but,
Right.
Occasionally, I follow lots of random stuff on Instagram and social media. And so
Right.
some of it's like historic photos kind of stuff. And so,
Okay.
and then our own local Bartlesville History Museum, shout out to the Bartlesville History Museum.
Yeah, Debbie East.
Yeah, they
Amazing.
post stuff like every day, and it'll be some photo from the 40s or 50s or 60s of our dear town. And so it'll be this, that, and so when they showed some picture, and it was just like a card shop, like a soda jerk place in the back, and this,
like
that,
a little
and the other.
drugstore kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe 1930s, 1940s,
That's
and
cool.
everyone was dressed to the nines.
Oh, sure.
And it was probably a Saturday, and there was suits.
It was
and
probably
ties,
115.
suits and ties, and 115 degrees, and I just thought, there's a part of that is so elegant, that is so classy. I don't know that I want to live in that, but it was just a different era where I think there was a certain amount of self-care or whatever.
Or keeping up appearances.
Maybe part of it too, but there was also a thing about, I don't know, like, hey, we're going into town, we're going to do whatever.
We're going to the airport, we're going to dress up.
Oh yeah, you would never, like, even when I was coming up, if you flew, a lot of times you flew in a tie or a shirt.
Really?
Shirt. Oh,
my mom always taught us to look nice because we were flying.
But
we didn't have to necessarily wear a dress.
We'd never fly in a pair of sweatpants that said juicy on the back.
Oh my gosh. And now people look
They
so
travel in their PJs
unsheltered.
and,
I mean, they're
oh my
just like,
gosh.
and their fuzzy house shoes. And I want to be, and I have trouble with that.
Yeah.
I want to be like, you need pants.
Yeah.
And shoes are good too.
Well, that's our joke when we go to a hotel and you show up for the free breakfast and people are there in the footy PJs and fuzzy shoes and all that kind of stuff, and they literally just rolled out of bed. And I thought, I know we're breaking your routine because you're traveling, but still, there are others here, and maybe, I don't know. That's probably catty on my end, but it's just funny.
Maybe we should be envying their freedom.
Yeah.
Do you think? To just be as they are.
Yes.
Who knows?
And they are letting me know that I can be myself, and
That's
I appreciate that.
I know.
Yeah. But to your point, I just, and the other part of what you were saying about how do we get better about that, I think there's a certain amount of determination. I am going to make other people feel comfortable. I am going to focus less on this. I am going to let my guard down a little bit. For me, I have to be very conscious of those things. So, like, sometimes if I'm going someplace, even like going to work out or whatever, I'll take like 30 seconds in the car and I'm thinking, okay, I'm okay. I don't need this to work out for me. I know who I am.
Yeah.
So I need to be aware of other people.
Yes.
When I get in here,
others
I'm going to
focus.
try and compliment or be aware of the good things in other people, and I'm going to try and say something about that to them.
I do that too.
Because I know who I am and I'm okay, so I don't need to protect myself going in here.
That's right.
I'm just going to walk in and try and be others focused a little bit.
Yeah.
And
giving yourself those few moments before you go into a meeting, or sometimes like if we're headed into like a cocktail party, or we have to do like, it's even if it's a business associates or that type of thing. Yeah, just taking a minute. I like that you said that, to remember, I know that I'm loved, I'm okay.
Yes.
So what can I do to go in and help the other people that are probably feeling insecure today?
Yes.
And it is, I think so much of the vulnerability is a willingness to be thinking of others.
Yeah.
And when we're thinking about ourselves, that's all we're going to be thinking about.
Right.
But if we're willing to serve a bit, and we're not perfect, there are sometimes I'll go to a party and think, I didn't think one moment about someone else. I forgot to. I just made my own jokes and whatever. But on a good day, like I say, we're willing to let ourselves go enough to serve someone else in something as simple as complimenting them, or being willing to say, I'm struggling with that too. And being willing to let our guard down so that we can give them the gift of letting theirs down.
Yes, and that's so important. That is an amazing gift. And I mean, and the reality of it is that when we are zoned into ourselves, when we're self-focused, when we're self-absorbed in that way, which is a funny element to being insecure, it really is being self-absorbed.
It's self-focused,
And but when we are self-focused, the world is literally passing us by.
Yeah.
So there's all this other stuff that's happening around us, all this other stuff that we could be a part of, all this stuff that we could be adding to, all this other stuff that we could be observing and taking in.
Yeah.
But because the focus is internal, we're missing it.
Yeah.
And so when you have friends or family that are insecure, and you leave a cocktail party or a picnic or an event or whatever,
Thanksgiving or whatever.
it's always interesting what their review of that event is versus what other people's review of it. So in their review of it, it's, this was missing and that was missing and yada, 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 yada. And it's because they were so self-absorbed. It was the self thing. They weren't aware of what was happening in the rest of the room. They were only aware of how that stuff was acting and reacting to them and with them. And so you miss the bigger picture. You miss all of this stuff. And but you're right. Yeah. So when we make ourselves vulnerable, it relieves us of the pressure of carrying that facade anymore.
Yeah.
So it brings that relief to us. It makes it okay for other people to be vulnerable and to be open, and it deepens all of our relationships.
Yeah. Let me take my armor off and set it over here for a minute so that you can take yours off.
Right.
And we can just be together. But it's a choice, I think, daily and sometimes more than once in a day to be willing to do that.
Yes, it is. Yeah, you have to set yourself up with reminders. And that's, this thing about maybe...
You set your iPhone alarm that drives me nuts. Vulnerability alarm!
No, but you can
hate that
but
thing.
if you start to develop habits, like your dad's habit is every time you get out of the car, scan the area. Is there trash that needs to be thrown away that's in the car?
Yeah.
That way, when it's all over...
His car's always clean.
It's always clean. And
He
it's
told
so
me that.
easy to do that thing. So in my case, it's kind of like, before I get out of the car, where am I getting ready to go? Am I going into a store?
Yeah.
Am I coming home? So am I walking out of this aware of other people? Am I walking out of this being alert to the needs of other people?
Yeah.
Or am I just guarding myself and being aware of myself and propping myself up in the process?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's a practice, as they say.
It is a practice, friends. It is a practice indeed. Just like listening to the Dreamers Live podcast has become a practice for us. It's amazing.
I think we should get a prize. We should get a prize too.
Yes.
For sure.
You know what would be a really great prize is if you would share, post, forward to all the things the socials peoples do.
You can even fax or email it.
Yeah, and just let others know how much you're enjoying this. Also, on most of these formats, there is an opportunity to comment on something. So if you hate the things that Anjanette said, I think now's a great time to let her know.
That's rude.
Or if you have a question, or maybe you have a topic that you'd like to consider us covering or something like that.
Yeah, we actually got, we've had a few comments and a cool one recently that we should probably add into what we're doing.
Right.
So.
And so anyway, share this, like this, post this, subscribe, and we so appreciate you being a part of this conversation. We will be back in another couple weeks with a new episode and all that kind of stuff. If you would ever like us to do a Dreamers Live event in your area, as they used to say, your neck of the woods, just let us know. We'll work out the details and be part of all that stuff. Yeah. But between now and then, keep listening, keep dreaming, and thank you for being a part of the Dreamers Live podcast. Peace out.